Grant us the faith to put the past behind us.
We have a critical missing, age 16.
Your daughter has been trafficked and is being sold.
We gotta get out of here. Go faster! Faster! Hurry!
The Lost Girls. Only on Lifetime.
So we're going to ask Dawn this question first, and then anybody else that wants to give a description after, they can. Dawn, what are some of the ways we can protect, prevent, and stop these types of situations from happening?
Well, there's the number of ways are really pretty amazing how many they are. And actually what I would recommend, there is a website that you can go to, Defeat the New Drug. And it's really dealing with porn, but because of porn's attachment to trafficking, it provides so many resources. There's an abundance of resources for us to use to be helpful on the prevention end. But one of the things that is seen in the movie, it's actually an app you can download on your phone, is that many times when a girl's being trafficked online, the photograph is in the place where they're actually being trafficked. And there's actually an app now called Trafficking, where wherever you go to a hotel, you go in and click, take a photograph, and it takes a look at all those online girls that are being sold and can identify and match the room. So that's one way that's really simple, that whenever we check into a hotel room, use that app and take that photo.
And it's Trafficking?
Trafficking.
A very good resource. Anybody else like to chime in on that one?
So there's a couple of standard things or aspects or perspectives to this, and they kind of have the thing called the 4 Ps: the prevention, the protection, the prosecution, and the partnership. And you might hear me say this a few times during the questions. In the partnership, we can't do this alone as a community or social. We have to do this together. And like he just said, the prevention is probably one of the key things, and that starts at the very simple level of the laws and and having to do with labor and reporting and those different aspects that we have in our system. I don't really like that word, but in here, in our environment for the protection, not only of this heinous crime, but many crimes. And education and prevention is one of the key aspects for this. And that is the challenge in and of itself. And frankly, just being here today, the opportunity that we are here and you are all here to learn, hopefully this again is a big part of that prevention and that education. So I thank you and commend you for being here today to see this show and to listen to the little tidbits of information that we have to offer to hopefully send you on your way with more information. And one of the things that you saw in the movie, there's what we call the 3 R's, and that's the rescue. You saw when she was rescued. Then there's the rehabilitation. She was kind of still, in my opinion, in that phase of rehabilitation. She was still very volatile. And then there's what they call the reintegration, where there becomes a more normalcy in that person's life. And these are things that, as a society, we need to understand, because as you saw with her, the trauma goes on for a very long period. It can go on for several years before they truly, and I'm not an expert, we'll have someone who can maybe shed some more light on that sitting with us today. But it really comes from that prevention, that protection, and then to be able to move forward and that education. The education, you're going to hear me again, most likely talk about that some more. So that's all I'll add. So again, thank you for being here for this.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. Our next question, I'll start with Adam. What are some of the warning signs when someone is being pursued or lured into trafficking?
Yeah, some of the signs that we see is, the people acting different, dressing different. You guys saw in the movie, she had a new boyfriend, and maybe the family didn't know the boyfriend, new friends, just totally, just started acting different lifestyle, getting into different things. So it's those kind of things, being on the phone too much, social media, just new strangers in their life, people that you don't know, and so we see a lot of that kind of stuff. But.
Yeah, social media. We were at an event over the weekend up in Reno, and we were talking to an individual that checks their children's social media quite often, and they were actually found a perpetrator on a 15-year-old's Instagram page. So it was very interesting. Raphael, you want to share a little bit? Like signs and, some of the warning signs of, how does it start? What is the call for help?
So what I've found in my personal experience and working with Cash is that there's usually a trauma experience in their life. A lot of people were struggling. We all have our own means to meet. We need to live. And so there's this thing that I believe is a very key part in it, and it's trauma bond. So if somebody sees you and you're an open individual and you're talking about your life, if you're having any type of difficulties, it's very easy for a perpetrator to swing in on that and make a trauma bond with you. They'll identify with having the same type of money issue you are, or maybe something in their past, or their parents are not together anymore. They're struggling with drugs and alcohol. And so for me, it was a trauma bond. So the signs of that was depleting more from your social aspect. If it was someone, I used to play a lot of sports. I was more engaged with my family, with my siblings, and I started to back out of that. And so there was less of me in a family orientation. It was more individualized, and it was really the key to isolating me. Yeah.
This question is for Victor, and then we'll go through the line. What is being done to educate the youth or high-risk individuals about the dangers and tactics of trafficking? You just mentioned earlier that, I'm a big proponent in prevention. We spend a lot of resources on rehabilitation and things like that, and I don't believe enough resources are spent on prevention. So can you share a little bit about what's happening?
So that's a really enormous aspect, because the education is huge, and you've all heard this before. It really starts at home with the parents, and we've all heard, about our kids. Do we know what they're doing online? Do we know who their friends are? Are we involved in what they're doing regularly? Do they trust to talk with you? Is there open line of communication? And it has to start at home before they have that safety and the security at home. And if they don't, and then it goes back to what we just heard, some of those other signs will start to show up, the potential for the new friends or the unknown friend, and so on and so forth. So it really has to be, you have to have that integral, that family togetherness, and you'll know when something's awry then. If you don't have that and you're not paying attention or not knowing where they're at, that's a challenge in and of itself. There are also, from the education standpoint, there's things that have expanded now, and I'm not sure a lot of folks, in my role at Stand Up Placer, it's amazing how many folks we learn don't know that certain things are out there. For example, even for schools, there's an online and actually a safety planning and education for schools, a human trafficking guide essentially, and I think it's called youth.org. Somebody can check me on that. But there's actually resources there. The schools need to be an integral part of that as well, right? And they're usually pretty good. Part of their training, teachers and staff, are to see some of these potential signs or these things that, like we heard about the friends or the mental health or things like that. And again, it goes back to, if you see something, say something. If something doesn't feel right or seem right, or someone's withdrawn or whatever it might be, you've got to let people know. But this question, again, it goes back to, we can't do this alone. It takes all of us as a society to recognize that it exists, not deny it, and then to come together through the education aspect. And again, there's so many things that need to occur from an educational perspective. It's not just any one entity or one person, or organization for that matter.
Yeah, it takes a community, as they say. Family always starts with our families, and I'm a big proponent in family. And I think if family, there needs to be a lot more work done in family as well. But if we don't see the signs, if we're not with our families and asking those questions and bonding with our kids, and they say nobody likes accountability, but everybody likes accountability, right? We want to be our kids' friends. We need to be their parents and really get involved. And I think with our school systems, our law enforcement, our parents, again, the forefront of the mind is to have communications about it. We have individuals that are now working for organizations that help in this matter, and they are firsthand experience knowledge that can come and share at schools, that can share in youth groups, can share. It's a hard subject to talk about, but it's a subject that has to be talked about.
Can I add one
Go
other?
ahead.
One other, Three Strands Global Foundation. They do a great job in providing educational materials for public schools. And if I think I'm still correct in the fact that they're approved to be used in public schools in California. So if you're looking for a resource, age-appropriate resource, I really want to encourage you to use Three Strands Global Foundation. They do a great job. And I'll just add one. You mentioned families, right? And it's interesting to know that in the state of California, most of the rescued victims of child sex trafficking come from the foster care program. And that's where we can make a big difference by getting involved. The big step and the most difficult step is to become a foster family, right? But that's a pretty significant step. A smaller one and a really significant one is to become a CASA, court-appointed special advocate. Each kid, each foster child in California should have one of those advocates that works with them. And it's about a 1 day a week commitment, but the impact is incredible. And last I knew, only 20% of the foster kids in the state of California had a CASA.
Another great organization. Don, how do we empower survivors? I know you're a big proponent of that, right? How do we empower survivors so they don't live in constant fear of being judged and misunderstood by society and those in authority? And Rafaela can kind of piggyback off of you on that too.
What I think is most important to understand is a process, and it's not something we do aftercare, and we think aftercare is critical. And we provide cutting-edge therapy and all the physical, emotional, educational needs for a child who is a victim. And that brings them to become a survivor, right? But the goal is to become more than a survivor, right? Like you, right? More than a survivor. And that takes, I really say there are three things. And it's true for every one of us. We all need a family, right? Where we belong and we are wanted. We all need to experience unconditional love. And we all need a purpose beyond ourselves. But that takes years. That's a process. And we have 5 girls, and I don't have time to tell you the story now, but they went from being rescued in what the federal agents said it was the worst case of child abuse they had ever seen, to becoming abolitionists today themselves. It was a 15-year process. And they were continually being reinforced by families who took them, and they continually knew, I'm wanted here. No matter what, I'm wanted here. And they experienced that unconditional love, and then a purpose and eventually a purpose beyond themselves. And that's really what takes someone from victim to surviving.
Let Raphael.
Yes, amen to all of that. I think the only thing I could definitely add with that, which you've already kind of spoken on, is just educate yourself. I'm 4.5 years out of that lifestyle, and I'm still sitting on a stage a bit nervous, not sure, because I can't see any of your faces technically, but I'm here. And that process took some time. So the support it's much needed, and it's needed in more than one area. And so the more that you can educate yourself, if it's a family member or people that you know near you, you just being present and knowing that it's going to take time. It's going to take time. And yes, I was blessed with the opportunity to work with Cash, and I walked through their doors in 2018. My child was in the system. I was completely homeless, and 2 years later, I got the opportunity to start as the person that got to open the door for the ladies. And now I'm actually doing client advocacy, and it is needed in our community for the individuals, me being one of them, to come back to the community and still feel a part of it.
It's a lifelong process. Right? Any type of recovery, it's a lifelong process. And you said, you both mentioned some really good things, right? Again, when we started, it takes a community. And many of you out there, we all want to help, right? Most people have a philanthropic heart. They want to see change, and we don't know what to do, right? We don't know what to do. So kind of, here's another question. Maybe Adam can start with this. Where should someone call if they believe they are being lured, or we believe someone is being lured? Who can we call? Is there an emergency hotline, or run to a church, run somewhere, tell somebody? Because a lot of times we're afraid to speak out.
Yeah, I just add, you can tell anyone. You can call your local agency, call 911 if you have to. Whatever you got to do, put it out. The law enforcement's not going to get upset if you call 911 and, it ends up being, sometimes it's something and sometimes it could be nothing, but I would just say something at the end of the day. Don't let it go without calling somebody. But
maybe answer this question while you're up there. I'll get right back to you. Okay. Tell us, since we're here in Placer County, kind of tell us what's going on in Placer County and the advocacy in Placer County, and how are we making a difference in Placer County?
This is happening everywhere. So, don't be naive that it's not happening right underneath us. It's happening every day. I'm with Auburn Police Department. We get some of these cases, maybe not to the extreme that you saw in the movie. I've worked on some of the cases. I was on a special team for about 7 years. We handled human trafficking, had cases just like this. We've arrested a lot of pimps, human traffickers. So in this area, yeah, we're not as bad as Sacramento, LA, but it's happening in every community. The people don't they don't know jurisdiction or what city they're in. They're just trying to make money. So they'll go anywhere. It could be any town. It's just a stop along the way for them. They work that area for a little bit, and then they move to the next area. But yeah, we work with the FBI. We work with all the other agencies. Placer's really come a long way in the last 10 years. Starting new groups. We have weekly meetings, review all our cases. You got a good group of people behind the scenes working on cases like this. And dealing with the children and the victims and stuff. We have the MDIC Center, Placer County. We have Kids First. Victor's part of this Stand Up Placer. We work with all them, and so it's a lot of good people trying to do good things and take down people like you saw in the movie. There are bad guys like this. And it's fun to arrest them, when we can. So
yeah, yeah, we like to see that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I think just to piggyback on that a little bit, if I heard correctly, who do we call here in Placer County? Well, it's not just because I'm on the board, but actually Stand Up Placer is the place to call. There's an 800 number. You can go to their website, look at my picture. You'll see I'm there. I'm just trying to lighten the mood a little bit. This is a very intense topic. So anyway, Stand Up Placer is the place to go. We actually handle we handle survivors of human trafficking, domestic violence, and sexual assault. Our staff's on call 24 hours a day. You can call 24 hours a day for assistance, even just to talk with someone. If you just want to talk to somebody, you can call them. You don't have to involve law enforcement if you don't need to or don't want to. And then that being said, if you go to the county website, you go to the state website, or you go to any federal websites and for looking for human trafficking and who do I contact, it's the same number on all those sites. It brings you right to the National Human Trafficking website each and every time. It's the same number, and you can actually, I think they had it on the screen here, you can actually text, I think it's 233-733.
Yep, that's the number.
If you want to as well. But I got an interesting question, and I hope I have time to expand. I had an interesting question in the lobby, and this goes back to kind of the education and prevention a little bit. When I was just talking with one of the leaders of this event tonight, said somebody, a survivor, had asked them, so what I would like is, how do people reach out to me? And I said, well, was there a process in which they were rescued? And they weren't. So they were involved. They never, and again, I don't like the word, but they're never brought into the system. And so there's no real mechanism. No one's going to know to go help a person who maybe needs help, which is why all these things we just discussed up here and what you saw in the movie is they need to reach out, or those who notice a change in that person, those things we just talked about, their mental health, their youth, runaway, unhoused for a while, substance abuse, unknown friends, online stuff, all those things, those ticklers, those are things that go, something might not be right with so-and-so. Maybe I need to call or ask them. Start with asking them, and maybe they'll confide in you, and then it can go from there. But at the end of the day, just know, for Placer County, Stand Up Placer is the 800 number you want to go call. If you go to any other websites, again, I want to make sure you're clear. It goes right to the national number, and you can text them. So that's the simplest thing. And I think we gave John the numbers if you wanted them. But you can look them up just as easily on your smartphone. So I think that kind of closes in that.
Again, advocacy, right? Find out what you can do to help. If you have if this is a burning passion in your heart, like it did for me and my wife many years ago, we got involved with an organization. Sitting in church one day, we heard a testimony of a survivor, and my wife broke down in church, and we got up right after church, and we went over and signed up, and my wife became a first responder and a chaplain, and how can we help? And now in my work, what I do is I also house and have safe houses. But that's what we do, right? You stand up Placer. You stand up and go help. And remember, just like in any other organization, no question is a stupid question. If you have to call emergency, if you have to call the trafficking hotline, call the trafficking hotline. Even if it's just a clue or if it's something burning on your heart, the phone call is a lot better than not having the phone call and seeing a face on TV later. All right? If you want to go, you can go to robertcraigfilms.com. You can do our newsletter for our upcoming events and our upcoming movies. We'll post this, the human trafficking hotline and the text number to text help or info. We'll put it on our website. I believe we have a link, if not, to Stand Up Placer, just so it'll be a lot easier to find. I think that wraps it up. So how about a round of applause? We thank you guys. We thank you for your time. Rafaela, a big round of applause for her. Takes a lot of courage to come up and share your story and to be an advocate and stand up for what is right. So we thank you for that. We really appreciate it. And with that, we thank you very much. There's free ice cream out in the lobby. We'll all be out there. If you want to ask us personal questions, we'll be out there. And thank you for coming.